All right, y'all. So number one wants to know if that's even or odd. So there's two ways we can check that. First way, we could fold the graph over the y-axis. If it's symmetric to the y-axis, it's even. Also, I look at how many times it's touching the x-axis. And this one's touching the x-axis twice. So that's going to make it even also. So we're going to go with even on this one since it's symmetric to the y and it touches the x-axis twice. All right, so second right here, they want us to describe how this function can be obtained from one of our basic graphs. Y'all, let me let some in real quick. All right, so we got to figure out what our basic graph is first. So since we have an exponent 2, this is the x squared graph. So you put in your x and then square that. Then it wants me to figure out what move is happening with the 4 units. So the 4 is inside the parentheses. So when it's inside the parentheses, it's left or right. If you're adding, it goes left actually. If you're subtracting, it goes right. So since the 4 is being added, it's going to shift us left 4 units. And then at the end, it wants to know what it does with the 5 units. So right here at the end where that plus 5 is, if it's positive, it's up. If it's negative, it's down. So since ours is positive, this will move me up 5 units. Then we got to graph this. So what you're going to do is click on the graph. X squared graphs make parabolas like our basic graph looks like. So you click the X squared tool and then click anywhere on the graph. It'll put the basic graph there. And then we're going to open up these controls over here. So to move left 4, I go to horizontal and I'm going to drag that to -4. Vertical went up 5, so I'm going to take the vertical and go up to a +5. And y'all, once you've done both of them moves, click save. Notice it moved the graph for me, and then we go to the next question. All right, now this one's actually telling us we're going to start with the graph of gx equals square root of x. That's the basic graph. And then they want to know what that -1 is doing to my graph. So when you're under the radical like that, it's like it's the x's that are in parentheses. And that's either going to move left or right. Since we're subtracting 1, it's going to move me right 1 unit. So you put in right and 1. Then it's going to give us 4 graphs. We got to figure out which graph went to the right 1 unit. Now you might have to zoom these in because they're going out to 20 on them. So I think number 1. So let me see what my chat's saying. So you're saying A, and that's what I'm going to go with is A. And if you notice, it did move over a little. So click A, and then we go to our next one. All right, same thing. So we got a few of these in a row, it looks like. So this one's giving me a negative x minus 3 squared plus 6. So they're telling us we're starting with the x squared graph. So we're going to shift it. Since that 3 is negative inside the parentheses, it's actually going to go right 3. We're going to reflect it across the x-axis. Remember, we won't touch the y-axis on this test at all. So it's always going to be reflected across the x. And then that plus 6 means we're going to move up 6. And then this one we didn't have to graph. So once you put all that in, hit enter and go to the next. All All right, y'all, I'll actually write this one down and work it by hand. So they're giving me f of t equals t squared plus 10t plus 24. So I'm gonna go to paper to work this. All right, so two ways to do that. You can factor this, or you could do this with the quadratic formula. I'm actually going to factor this one because the next one I'm going to do, the next problem, the only way we can do it is with the quad. So for this one, I'm going to set t squared plus 10t plus 24 equal to 0. Now I'm going to factor that. So I'm going to get my two parentheses. I got a t squared in the beginning. So we put a t in front of both parentheses. Now I need to find factors of 24 that will add to get 10. All right, y'all, and them factors would be, so we got 1 and 24, we got 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Those factors that add to get 10 are 4 and 6. So I'm going to put me a plus 4 and a plus 6 in there. Now, once we've got it factored, we take each of these factors and set them equal to 0 to get the two solutions. And basically, we're going to be subtracting for both of these. So the first one, subtract 4 from both sides, you get t equals a -4. The second one, I would subtract 6 from both sides, and I get t is a -6. So we would go back in and put in our -4, -6. All right, now this one don't need no parentheses or anything. Just put in your -4, comma, -6. Once you put them answers in, go to next. All right, y'all, this one, I'm going to use the quad because number 6 does not factor. So let me write this problem down. F of x equals 4x squared minus x plus 6. And notice on the instructions, it says express complex numbers in terms of I. So that means when I'm getting to my final answer, they want me to split it apart so that I got the real part first and then the imaginary part, okay? So let's go work this and then we'll come back and put that in. All right, so I'm going to use a quad. So the first thing was to set this equal to 0. So A is 4. B is a -1 since there's no number in front of the x other than that negative. And then C would be 6. All right, y'all, so here we go. We're going to throw this into the quad formula. So we get x equals -b, which is a -1, plus or minus square root b squared. So that'll be -1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 4, and c, which is 6. All that's over 2 times a, which is 4. So first step, getting everything plugged into the formula. Now let's start simplifying it. So the two negatives make that a +1, plus or minus square root. -1 squared is a +1. Everything over here is being multiplied. So we got one negative over there, so that's going to keep it negative. And then we got 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 6 would be 96. So under the radical, we get 1 minus 96, all that, over 8. So let's continue under the radical. So I got 1 plus or minus. 1 minus 96 gives us a negative 95 all over 8. So y'all, here's the thing now. We got this square root of negative 95 sitting here. We need to simplify this by pulling out any square factors that are perfect squares. But y'all, guess what? 95 is not going to divide by the 4, the 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. It's not going to divide by any of them perfect squares. So the one thing we cannot do, we cannot leave that negative under that radical. So what we would do is make this into 2 radicals. Under one of them, I'm putting a negative 1. Under the other, I'm putting that 95. So here's a question for y'all. What are we going to replace that negative, that square root of negative 1 with? And let's see, the chat's showing i's for y'all. Good job. So that's going to give me what? An I square root of 95. So we add that over here. We get 1 plus or minus I square root of 95 all over 8. So that would technically be the final answer, but they want us to rewrite it so that that imaginary part is sort of by itself and then the real part. So the real part, put the 1 over the 8. So you're going to get a 1 over 8. Then I'm going to put the plus or minus. And then the imaginary part would be I square root of 95 over 8. So all you're doing is sort of splitting that fraction apart for your final answer. Y'all, let me go to the page. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to start out with my first fraction, which was 1 over 8. So I get a 1, arrow down, put in my 8. Then I'm going to arrow right, put in my plus or minus. Then I'm going to go to the next fraction. I'm going to put in my I square root of 95, we said. So let's put in our 95. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom. And put in my other 8. So number 6, you're going to split it apart, make it into 2 fractions, basically, a real fraction and then your imaginary. All right, number 7, they want to know the x-intercepts first and then my solutions. So x-intercepts have to look like an ordered pair. So my x-intercepts, so let me move my chat out of the way. So my x-intercepts going to look like ordered pairs. So I'm going to click down the ordered pair down here. So it looks like my first one over here on the left is a dot at that negative 2 on the x. So that means that point will be negative 2, 0. So we're going to put in our negative 2. Arrow right, put in a 0. Then arrow out of that, put a comma, and then put the next ordered pair. See, on the next ordered pair is on the right side here. That dot's at 5. So that ordered pair will be 5, 0. Whoops, I didn't like how that did that. So let me click on the blue space and put my 0. So x-intercepts got to look like ordered pairs. The solutions are going to be the x values of those intercepts. So the solutions would be the negative 2, comma, and 5. Good job. Okay, so good job tonight. That's good job. That's put them 2 in. That's your solutions, and then hit next. Oh, looks like we're going to be writing this one down. So let me get the major things off of this one. So a wire stretched from the ground to the top of a tower. The wire is 13 feet. It also tells me the length of the tower is 7 feet greater than the distance D. And the distance D is the distance from the bottom of that tower to the bottom of that wire, okay? So we're going to draw this picture and figure this one out. Now they want both the distance from the wire to the tower, and then they want the height of that tower. All right, so what I'm going to do is draw me a tower over here. So that's my radio tower, and I got a wire stretched from the top of it down to the ground. They told me this wire over here was 13 feet. Now, the distance from the base to the end of the wire right here was our distance D. And then they told me the tower was 7 feet greater. So that'll be D plus 7. All right, y'all. So y'all are going to start out exactly like mine. Ever how long your wire is will be over here. And then ever how much greater your distance is will be over here. So that's your height of your tower, the wire, and then my distance D. So to solve this, we got a right triangle. We're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. And the only side that's picky, the longest side, that opposite side of this right angle, is always the hypotenuse, which is always going to be side C. So remember, Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I'm going to let this side D be A, D plus 7 be B, and 13 will be my C. So I'm going to get a D squared plus D plus 7 squared will equal my 13 squared. All right, so the part you're going to do on the side is the D plus 7 squared. So I need to figure out what D plus 7 is, 7 squared is, so I can replace this part with what we get. So this will be a D plus 7 times a D plus 7. That's going to give us a D squared plus 7D plus 7D plus 7 times 7 is 49. Combining those like terms in the middle, this gives me D squared plus 14D plus 49. So I'm going to replace this D plus 7 squared with that. So I now have a D squared plus D squared plus 14D plus 49. And then 13 squared is 13 times 13 is 169. All right. I'm going to add those like terms together. So I get a 2D squared plus 14D plus 49 equals 169. All right, make this look more like a D right here. All righty. Next, I need a 0 where the 169 is. So we're going to subtract 169 from both sides. So we finally get a 2D squared plus a 14D minus, let's see what that's going to give me. Looks like what, 120 equal to 0. All right, now we're at the point where we need to start solving this either by factoring or by the quad. Now I'm going to tell you a trick on this one. Since all these numbers are even numbers, I'm going to divide everybody by 2 to make this a little easier. I'm going to divide all these by 2 so that I get d squared plus 7d minus 60 equals 0. All right, y'all, so here we go. We're now going to hit this with the quad. Or we're going to factor it. So I'm probably going to factor that, I think, since it will. So to factor that, I'm going to set my parentheses. I got a d squared, so that's going to put a d in front of both parentheses. So now factors of 60 could be 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, and I think that's it. Now remember, since that last number is negative, we need one of these negative and one of these positive. So I'm going to make the first numbers negative and see if I get anything that adds to 7. So negative 1 and 60, no. That gives me 28. This one gives me 11. Oh, here we go. Negative 5 and 12 will give me a positive 7. So I'm going to put negative 5, positive 12. If none of these would have worked, I'd have made the first numbers positive and the second numbers negative and seen if those would have gave me that middle number. All right, so like we'll go, once it's factored, set both these factors equal to 0 and solve them both. So the first one, I would add 5. So I get d equals 5. Second one, I would subtract 12. And I get d equals a negative 12. So the question would be, how long is my side D? And I got 2 possible answers here. So what are y'all going with? All right, so remember, you're looking at distance, and distance is always a positive number. So what we would do, definitely be a 5, because we would have to cancel out that d equals negative 12, because the distance can't be negative, okay? So we know this distance d is 5. Well, the tower was 7 more than this side d. From a tower, you would take the 5 plus 7 and get me 12. So d is 5, that distance, and then the height is 12 of the tower. So let me go put that in. And let's see, the distance from the wire to the tower, we say it was 5. The height of the tower, what I say was 12. All right, y'all, so good job. 5 and 12, then you put that in and go next. All right, this one tells me, so let me write this stuff down. The foot of a ladder is 3 feet from the wall. The height of the ladder reaches on the wall, and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. They only want me to figure out how long is this ladder. So we got our information, so let's go work this out. So we got a wall over here with a ladder leaned up on it. I do know that the bottom of this ladder, from this bottom of this ladder to this wall over here, is 3 feet. And once again, that makes a right angle. Now, they said the height it reaches on the wall here and the length of this ladder are consecutive integers. That means if the height it reaches on the wall is x, then the ladder has to be x plus 1. So y'all check this out. Y'all's will be exactly the same as mine, other than this might not be a 3. but it will start out with an x for this side and an x plus 1 for that side. The only side that's picky is the latter side has to be the hypotenuse or the c. So I'm going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared again. So I'll let this be a, so that'll give me 3 squared. Plus my b squared is going to be x, so we'll square the x. That's going to equal to x plus 1 squared. But if you notice, I got side work to do again, so let me work that. We're going to figure out what x plus 1 squared equals. And y'all, whatever I'm pulling in here, you're going to have the same thing because you're going to have the x plus 1 just like me, okay? So write that twice. And FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 1 times x is 1x. 1 times 1 is 1. Combining the like terms, I get an x squared plus 2x plus 1. Y'all will have the exact same thing on the right side. So 3 squared is 9 plus my x squared. That's going to equal this now, x squared plus 2x plus 1. At this point, y'all will have everything the same as me, other than that 9. Depends on whether y'all's was 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, or whatever. But y'all, everything else is going to be exactly the same. So what I would try to do is get everything on one side. But y'all, I got a positive x squared on this side, positive x squared on that side. When I try to move them to the same side, they basically cancel out on both sides. So all that's left is a 9 equals 2x plus 1. At this point, y'all's is going to look exactly like mine, other than the 9 maybe. You will have a 2x plus 1 on that side, okay? So now let's solve it for the x. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides. 8 equals 2x. Perfect. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And I get 4 equal to my x. Now, check this out. 4 is that side. They want to know how long is that ladder. And the ladder is definitely 5, right? 4 plus 1 would make that side a 5. So don't put in that 4 for your answer. Only put in the 5 because that's all they wanted. So let me get us back there. So I'll put in my 5 and move on. All right, this one says, hey, I'm giving you a graph here. They want to know the vertex. Well, y'all are giving me the vertex under that point right there. The vertex is that point, what is that, 4, -3? So I'm going to use my ordered pair, put in my 4, and then go to the right and put in my -3. Remember, they're giving you the vertex on this problem. Now it says the axis of symmetry, that's going to be x equals the x value, which is 4. So if you split that in half, it would have a line of that x equals 4 there. The minimum or maximum value is equal to the y value, and that looks like a -3. So we would do -3 and be good. So this one, we're giving you everything to work with. Later on, we'll be making you find that vertex, okay? Right, so here's one where we will find the vertex. So what I need to do is write down this problem. F of x equals 2x squared plus 10x plus 9. So notice they want the vertex, axis of symmetry, min or max value. And then we're going to graph this, okay? So let me go find my vertex first. So A is 2 on this, B is 10, and C is 9. So to find the vertex, to get the x-coordinate, the x-coordinate is going to be negative B over 2A. So that'll be a negative 10 divided by 2 times 2. That's going to give you a negative 10 over 4. And y'all, I need to reduce that negative 10 over 4 to a negative 5 over 2. So anytime you can divide numbers out at the top and bottom, you got to divide them out, okay? So the x-coordinate is negative 5/2. So I know for sure on my vertex, I'm going to have a negative 5/2. To get the y-coordinate, I find f of a negative 5/2. That means put that negative 5/2 in for both of these x's. And then it's plus 10 times the negative 5/2 plus 9. All right, so let me go to the calculator screen because I would just punch this one on my calculator. So let me show you how I would punch it. And I would put it in this calculator the way it looks. So you got a 2, then you got a parentheses. We're going to put in our negative 5/2, which will be negative 5 divided by 2. Close parentheses and square that. Then it was what? Plus 10 times that negative 5/2. So negative 5 divided by 2. Close those parentheses. And then at the end, I had a plus 9. So I'm going to hit enter, see what that gives me. That's going to give me a negative 3.5. I'm going to turn that into a fraction by hitting the math button and then enter twice. So that gives me a negative 7/2. So since I got a negative 7/2 there, my vertex will be negative 5/2, comma, negative 7/2. All the rest of the questions I can get from these values here. So let's go put this in. All right, vertex. Ordered pair. So for the x value, I'm putting a negative 5 divided by 2. For the y value, I had a negative 7/2. Whoops. Let me get clicked over here. All right, then that said that time was what, a negative? Let me get it in the blue. All right, so negative 7 divided by 2. So there's my negative 5/2, negative 7/2. Axis of symmetry is going to be x equals the x value, which was a negative 5 divided by 2. A min or max, since that 2 is positive in front of the x squared, since that 2 is positive, it's going to be a minimum. There you go. So that's going to be a minimum. And then the minimum value is the y value, which was negative 7/2. Oh, y'all, here's the tricky part. They want us to graph this. So we know it's a parabola. So we grab that parabola. My vertex is negative 5/2, negative 7/2. Notice my graph is broken into halves. So since the graph is broken into halves, I go left on top, negative 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Puts me in between negative 2 and negative 3. And then I would go down 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I would click there for my first point. So y'all, since it's broken into halves, you can use the top number to move left and then down. Now I need another point. So what I'm going to do is go to my calculator. So let me clear this. And I'm just going to graph it. So I had 2x squared. So 2x squared plus 10x plus 9. Now, I'm really not worried about the graph, but if you are here, click graph. It'll show you the graph. And then I'm going to go to my table, which is second graph. Oh, look, y'all already had me some points. So y'all had -3, -3, and then -1 would work. So good job. So let's go plot some points. So we had -3, -3, you said. So -3, and then down to -3. Now remember, when you're moving these points, remember it's broken into halves. So all you needed was one of them 2 points, and it will actually draw our parabola. So we save that and move to our next problem. All right, so this will be on y'all. True or false? The graph of hx equals x plus 4 squared can be obtained by translating the graph hx equals x squared left 4 units. So let's see. Remember, since that's a +4 and it's in the parentheses, it's going to move opposite what y'all think. So this will move left 4 units, which means this one would actually be true. There you go. All right, y'all, then we hit next. All right, so this one has a lot. It wants me to find the vertex, maximum or minimum, range, intervals of increasing and decreasing. All of that can be found by knowing that vertex. So let me write this one. I got f of x equals x squared plus 10x plus 9. All right, so let's go work this. And once again, really, all you need on this is that vertex, because all the other answers depend on it to get their marks, okay? So A is 1, B is 10, C is 9. So remember, for my vertex, the x coordinate is -b over 2a. That'll be a -10 over 2 times 1, which gives me a -10 over 2, which gives me a -5. So the x value is -5. The y value is f of -5. So that'll be -5 squared plus 10 times -5 plus 9. So really at that point, we can hit it with our calculator. So let me see. Y'all giving me a -16. So let's see. That'll be 25 minus 50 plus 9. So that's going to give me -25 plus 9. Good job. That is a -16. Good job. So now that we know this, remember, the 1 is positive, so we got a minimum. And we know this vertex here is -5, -16. So let's go put that in and start knocking out these questions. All right, so I'm gonna hit my vertex first. Looks like an ordered pair. And our point was what, -5? arrow over, and make that one what? A negative 16. All right, a maximum or minimum, since the A is 1, the number in front of the x squared is positive, you got a minimum. So it does have a minimum. And the minimum is equal to the y value, which is the negative 16. Now it asks me for the range. So y'all, since this one opens upward, remember on the range, you got to use the bracket around the number. The lowest value is the lowest y value, which was negative 16. And then a comma. Now, since it's opening upwards, it's going from negative 16 upward. We say that heads off towards infinity. And remember, infinity always has a curvy parenthesis around it. So you use the y value for your range. We're going to use x values only for our increasing and decreasing. And that negative 5 is the changeover point from where it decreases to where it starts increasing. So it's going to start increasing at 5. So let me hit my parentheses. Not 5, but negative 5. And it's increasing to the right as the x's head out towards infinity. And then that always has a curve. So on the increasing and decreasing, it's always going to be curvy parentheses, okay? So y'all, if it's increasing from negative 5 to infinity, then it's going to be decreasing from negative infinity to that negative 5. So it would come in and put negative infinity, comma, negative 5. So remember, increasing and decreasing, the vertex x value is the point that's going to be in between the infinities. The range, the y value is either going to go up or down, depending on are you opening upwards or opening down, okay? So we did not have to do anything else to that, so hit next. All right, so let me write this one down. So it looks like another vertex, and we got f of x equals negative 4x squared minus 20x plus 1. So let's see, we got to know the vertex, min and max value, range, and then increasing and decreasing. So basically the same type problem I just had. All right, y'all, so here we go. A is negative 4. B is negative 20. And C is at positive 1. So to get my x value, I'm going to do negative b over 2a. So that'll equal a negative times that negative 20 over 2 times my a, which is a negative 4. So that's going to give me a positive 20 on top over a negative 8. So that will be negative. And then let's simplify that 20 over 8 by dividing both of them by 4. So 20 divided by 4 gives me a 5. 8 divided by 4 gives me a 2. So for my vertex, I know that the x value is a negative 5 halves. Now I would find f of a negative 5 halves. So I got negative 4 times negative 5 halves squared minus 20 times negative 5 halves plus 1. So y'all, I think I'm going to jump and let my calculator figure this one out. So I'm going to see somebody's chatting me. So we got 26. So let me see if you're right there. So we had what? Negative 4 parentheses, -5 divided by 2. Close those and square that. Minus 20. Times that -5/2. And then what was it? Plus 1. Oh, look at that. 26. Good job. Good job. So we got a -5/2 and 26 for our vertex. Yeah, that was a good job. Those are tricky on that calculator, girl. Good job. All righty, so here's my vertex. So I got parentheses. What was it? -5/2. Then I'm going to arrow right, put my comma, and then what was it? 26. And then close my parentheses. All right, so then it asks, does it have a maximum or minimum? Well, y'all, since that A was a -4, remember that negative flips it over, and you now have a maximum, and the maximum is the Y value of 26. All right, we come down here for the range. Now remember, since this is flipped over, 26 is the highest Y value. So when you got it flipped over, it's going to start from -infinity up until that maximum value of 26. And remember, 26, since this is range, has to have the square bracket around it. So on the range, the number always has a square bracket. All right, then it says, hey, it's increasing. So remember, since you have a maximum, you're coming in from the left side, increasing. So you're increasing from -infinity, comma, until we hit the X value of our vertex, which was the -5/2. Right. Arrow out of that, and then I'll put my parenthesis. So y'all, if it's increasing from -infinity to -5/2, then it's going to be decreasing from the -5/2 until we hit positive infinity. And then that would have a curve. So the increase and decreasing has curvy parentheses. The range in this problem is the only one that has the square bracket. All right, we got that. So then we would hit next. So this was actually a vertex problem. The maximum height happens at blank seconds after launch. That's going to be the X value. The maximum height it reaches will be our Y value. All we need is this equation they gave us, h of t equals -16 t squared plus 136 t plus 3. So that's all we need to find our vertex, because the vertex is basically going to give me the time it took and then the actual maximum height. So A is -16, B is 136, and C is 3. So to get my vertex, because remember, the vertex is going to be the maximum height it has. That's -b over 2a. So -136 divided by 2 times -16. Well, y'all, that's going to give me what? A -136 divided by -32. So let me see what that gives me. -136 divided by what? -32. So that's giving me 4.25. Now, I'm not going to change this one to a fraction because it will take my answers as I have them. So this is the time it took, 4.25. To find the actual height, we would find the age of 4.25. So we would do -16 times 4.25 squared plus 136 times 4.25 plus 3. So y'all, I'm just going to punch that on our calculator real quick. So -16 times 4.25 squared plus 136 times that 4.25. And then at the end was a plus 3. All right, so let's see, the maximum height is going to be 292. So it reaches a maximum height of 292 feet after 4.25 seconds. So let's go back and put that in. So 4.25. And then come down here and put your maximum height, we said was 292. All right, I'll then hit next. All right, so for a domain, we got what? F of x equals the square root of 5x minus 4. So let me work that in real quick for us. So the trick on this one, since it's a radical, to find the domain, we're going to set 5x minus 4 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Once we solve that, we'll have our domain restrictions. So y'all, first, add 4 to both sides. 5x is greater than or equal to a positive 4. And then divide both sides by 5. So I get x is greater than or equal to 4/5, cannot be reduced. So let's just go pick the one that has that. And I think this one, they always give you 4 choices. Now be careful because they got not equals, less than or equals, greater than or equals. Ours was greater than or equals, so we would have to pick C. All right, y'all, these want me to graph. You can graph them on a calculator, but I know what that +7 is doing to my graph. Since that's a positive 7, it's actually moving my graph 7 units to the left. Well, A went right, B went left, which is what I need. C went up, and D looks like it went right also. So I'm going to pick B because that went left. But remember, graph that on your calculator. It'll give you one of them 4 pictures, okay? Look at this, graphing another one. So I'll actually graph this one because it's got that 2x minus 2. So let's go to graph on our calculator. I'm going to clear everything out here. So let's go to y equals. I'm going to clear that. We had square root of, oh, what was it? 2x minus 2. So I'm going to hit my square root. That's blue right there. So you hit the second button and the x squared, and then put in our 2x minus 2. So let me go look real quick. I think that's what I was doing. So 2x minus 2, yeah. All right, so I got it in there. I'm just going to hit graph because that's all I got to do is find one of the pictures. And y'all look, it goes to the right. So I'm gonna go up here to my page. And looks like the one that looks like what I had has to be A, because it's the only one to the right side of the y-axis. I'm gonna pick A and move on. All right, so this will be on y'all. I got a piecewise function. Which one of them equations would I use to find f of -5? All right, so I got a 1, 1 or 2. So let's see. So I'm finding f of -5. Is -5 less than -5? The second one says -5 can be less than or equal to -5, which is less than 1. So since it's not less than -5, we're not going to use equation 1. So definitely we're going to use that equation 2 because the equals part is on equation 2 for the -5. So that one says we would use the equation for 6x. All right, y'all, so click that and move to the next. All right, so now I got increasing, decreasing, and constant. So let me zoom that up just a little. All right, so I'm gonna start with increasing. There's two parts where it's increasing going left to right. This first part, and then about in the middle, it looks like it's increasing. So remember, on these intervals, we need parentheses. So let me see. Oh, good job. -infinity to -7. Good job. So let me push that -infinity, comma, -7. Close those parentheses, do a comma, and then open those parentheses up again. Because I got another part that's increasing. And y'all, the other part I got increasing is looking like the x value is from -2 over to -1. Now remember, I'm only looking at x values for these. So that would be -2, comma, -1, those parentheses. Now, decreasing. Decreasing, I only got one part going downhill left to right, and that starts at -7 and stops at -5. So we got parentheses, -7, comma, -5, close parentheses. Constant, we got two places it's constant. It's constant over here between -5 and -2. Then it starts being constant again at -1 as it heads out towards infinity. So we got, what we say for constant? I said -5 over to -2. Shut them off, comma, and then start the next one. We said that was what? -1 to infinity. Whoops, I didn't get my infinity. All right, now let me grab infinity and then close those parentheses. Okay, so you'll do that, then you'll hit the next one. And this will be the same thing, sort of, as the vertex stuff. That's got a peak, so it's got a relative maximum. The relative maximum occurs at the x value of 4.5 and has a value of the y value, which looks like, what's that, 6.25? So let me zoom that in a little. So yeah, 6.25. Now, it's increasing from the left side. So it's increasing from negative infinity until we hit that 4.5. So they gave us choices on that one. So let me see what y'all are saying. So C, good job. How about the next one? Where is it decreasing? And that'd be A. So let's see, from 4.5 to infinity. Good job. Good job. Oh, I like your first one, the A, because remember that Y values ain't used on this. All right, y'all, let's hit on that. So we hit next. All right, so the same thing, maximum or minimum. So the minimum is where the valley is. So let me zip that up a little bit to see this thing. So it's got a relative minimum though, so they want me to do the maximum first. So the maximum is the peak here. So it has a maximum of -1 at x equals 2. Now y'all be careful with this because the first one wanted the x value first and then the value. This question 22 wants the value, then the x number. So look here, we got a relative minimum of -33 at x equals 10. So we can come in and do -33 at x equals 10. All right, so let's see what y'all pick here. A, B, C, D. On which interval is this function increasing? And I will tell you, you got 2 intervals on that. So let's see, it's increasing from -infinity up to the 2. And then it looks like from 10 to infinity. So let's see, y'all said D. So D is perfect. Now decreasing, what looks like from what, to 2 to the 10. So it's decreasing from 2 to 10, which is also D. Oh, y'all did good on that. All right, y'all, then we hit next. So this one, what you would do, find which interval you're in and then plug that number in. So -10, since -10 is less than -6, I would use the first equation. So we put a -10 in for the x. So -5 times -10 is 50. 50 minus 18. So let's see, 50 minus 18 is 32. Then for h of -4, -4 is not less than -6. -4 is in between -6 and 3. So I'm going to use the second equation. Definitely second one. So we put that. Now look, the second one tells me anything in that range just equals 3. So we put a 3 in there, move to the next one. H of 3. H of 3 would be which one? So that'd be the third one. Good job. So if it's equal or greater than 3, we use the x plus 7. So we put a 3 in for the x. 3 plus 7 will give us 10. And then finally, h of 7 would also use that last one. Yep. So y'all, here's the way I've always seen this problem work. The first one they give you uses the first equation. The second one they give you uses the second equation. The last two always use the last equation. So 7's bigger than 3, so I would use that one. 7 plus 7 would give us 14. Y'all, but like I said, it always first equation, second equation, and the last two use that last equation, okay? All right, what happened? I thought I hit next. So let's see, try that again. All right, 24 wants me to use this difference quotient. So they're giving me f of x equals negative 6x plus 6. So let me write that down, and we're going to use the difference quotient. So let me share this page. So we're doing f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. So the first thing you want to do to this is figure out f of the x plus h, so I can fill in this part of the formula. So to do that, you take the negative 6, replace the x with an x plus h, and then plus 6. Now to simplify this, you got to remove parentheses by distributing the negative 6 so that you get a negative 6x minus 6h plus 6. Now that does not simplify any further because we do not have like terms. So I'm going to plug that into this formula. F of x plus h was the negative 6x minus 6h plus 6. This part says f of x. That's what they gave us. So that was negative 6x plus 6 all over the h. So y'all notice this. Everything in this first parentheses that does not have an h in it is going to cancel with this side. So look here, because remember, you got a negative 6x. Well, negative times a negative makes that a positive 6x. So those 6x's are going to cancel. Here you got a positive 6. That negative is going to make that 6 negative. So the 6's cancel. All that's left is a negative 6h over h. And guess what? You can simplify that because them h's cancel. So your final answer is a negative 6. So I'm going to go up. Notice that answer is going to always be the same as that negative 6 in front of the x because this is a straight line. So let's see. On that one, we come in and put our negative 6. And I'll tell you what, this next one is going to be a little bit more complicated than that one. So let me write down what they gave me for this one. So I need the f of x equals negative 8x squared plus 3x plus 4. So let me switch back over because the trick is going to be finding the f of x plus h part. So here we go. F of x plus h will equal negative 8 times x plus h squared plus 3 times x plus h plus 4. So it looks the same other than you change these x's both into an x plus h. So the first thing I'm going to figure out is what is x plus h squared on the side. And y'all can copy down what we get for this because you're going to have the same thing, x plus h squared. So that's x plus h times x plus h. That'll give you an x squared plus a hx plus a hx plus h squared. Combining like terms, these two right here, you get an x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. I'm going to replace this x plus h squared with all of this. So I get a negative 8 times x squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 3 times x plus h plus 4. All right, now I'm going to distribute a negative 8 through the first parentheses, the positive 3 through the second parentheses. So you get a negative 8x squared minus 16hx minus 8h squared plus 3x plus 3h, and then at the end is our plus 4. So y'all, this one ain't no joke. It's got some terms in it, okay? But none of these are like terms, so we're going to start plugging them into our formula. F of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So this one gave me negative 8x squared minus 16hx minus 8h squared plus 3x plus 3h plus 4. So I'll just put all this into the f of x plus h. The f of x, they gave us negative 8x squared plus 3x plus 4. Always an h on the bottom. But y'all, just like a while ago, anything over here that does not have an h in it is going to cancel with this stuff. The negative 8x squared cancels with this negative 8x squared. Let's see, that has an h, that has an h, so they're not canceling. That's a 3x. That 3x will cancel with that 3x. 3h doesn't cancel, but the 4 cancels with the 4. So at this point, you got a negative 16hx minus 8h squared plus the 3h all over h. So y'all, all three of these have to be divided by that h. So for this one, the h cancels, and you get a negative 16x. Minus, in the second one, you got an h squared over an h. One of them h's cancel, leaving you an 8h. And then at the end, you got a 3h over h. That h cancels, leaving us a positive 3. So y'all remember, the trick is getting that f of x plus h stuff, okay? Because all the f of x stuff will cancel every time, and all you're left with is an h. So y'all, when I got up here, I could have said, okay, there's no h there, there's no h there, there's no h there. So I just could have took these three divided by the h and been done, okay? Whoa, that's the tricky one there. So let me go put that thing in. So I got a negative 16x minus 8h. Then I had what, a plus 3. All right, so I'll put that in. Oh, they just want us to submit it now. So we're at the end of that. So let's see if we have submitted. Did we not finish? I think we finished it off. Oh, so what happened on this number 6? Let me see. Oh, hang on, I worked that. You know what I did? I don't know. Where did I get that? Y'all, so what did I do on that? And so let me go back to this. Oh, I'll tell you what I did. I'll see it right here. I wrote the problem down wrong. Look, 4x squared minus x plus 8. Let me show you what we did. On that one, I had a 6 here instead of an 8. So if your eyes are bad like mine, it might have got us, right? Yeah, so we wrote it down wrong. So we did it good for what we had. But if we'd have put a 8 there instead of the 6, we'd have probably got what they got, okay? All righty, y'all. So let's see. Any questions out of y'all? So y'all did pretty good on this. So what I would do for sure is play with that study guide because that counts as a quiz grade. Do that as many times as you want until you feel comfortable. And when you feel comfortable, knock out that test. Now, later tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to be sending y'all an email with a bonus. And I usually do my bonuses for up to 5 points on a test. So that's half a letter grade for this test. So I'm going to email the bonus out tonight or tomorrow, like I said. You can email it back. You can screenshot it and text me back. Either way, okay? All right, y'all. So I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to stop our recording.